All right, let's grab our magnifying glasses and step into the shoes of a financial detective. Our mission today? To uncover the truth behind a company's numbers by digging into the single most important thing they have, audit evidence.
I mean, it's the fundamental question, right? Every time a company releases a financial report, how do we really know we can trust what they're saying? Well, that's exactly where the auditor comes into the picture. Now, an auditor's work isn't just random guesswork, it's a full-on systematic investigation. They follow a very specific roadmap to navigate a company's finances, and that's the map we're going to follow today to see how they get to the bottom of things.
So the entire audit mission, everything they do, really hinges on one single core concept. It's the foundation for every single conclusion they make.
And that concept is, of course, audit evidence. But this is more than just numbers on a page. It's the whole collection of proof. We're talking everything from board meeting minutes to direct confirmations from a bank that lets an auditor form an opinion they can actually stand behind.
Now here's the thing. Not all evidence is created equal. The whole process is really governed by two golden rules that help separate weak, flimsy proof from solid, compelling support. And these rules are the bedrock of a credible audit.
This brings us to the first major fork in the road for an auditor. Every single piece of evidence they look at has to be judged on two things. Is there enough of it? And, maybe more importantly, is it any good? Now, the fancy professional terms are sufficiency and appropriateness, but just think of it as a constant balancing act. An auditor can have a literal mountain of documents, but if the quality is terrible, it's useless. On the other hand, one perfect piece of evidence might be great, but it's probably not enough to cover everything.
So sufficiency is all about scale. And there's no magic number here. It's all about professional judgment. The auditor has to look at the pile and decide, is the volume of evidence I have here enough to give me reasonable assurance that my conclusion is right?
But like I said, a mountain of evidence is worthless if you can't trust it. And that's where appropriateness, the quality filter, comes in. You see, poor quality evidence doesn't just weaken a conclusion, it can blow it up entirely.
So what does high quality actually mean in an audit? Well, it really breaks down into two essential ingredients.
For any piece of evidence to be considered appropriate, it has to pass two big tests. First, it has to be directly relevant to what the auditor is testing. And second, its source has to be fundamentally reliable.
This basically creates a simple but really powerful checklist for the auditor. First question, does this piece of paper in my hand actually prove the specific claim I'm testing? And the second question, how much can I really trust where this came from?
Relevance is all about focus. It's about being on topic. Think of it this way. If you're trying to prove a company owns its headquarters, a utility bill is nice. It proves the building exists. But a title deed? That proves ownership. The evidence has to match the claim.
And those specific claims, they have a name, financial assertions. These are the specific things management is claiming about their numbers, that an asset exists, that they own it, that it's valued correctly, and these are the exact points the auditor's evidence has to prove or disprove.
For example, if a company asserts, we own 50 delivery trucks, looking at a maintenance log for 50 trucks isn't going to cut it. The auditor needs to see the actual titles, the ownership documents. One proves usage, the other proves ownership. See the difference? That's relevance. And then there's reliability, which is just all about trust. It's about the integrity of the source. Evidence that comes straight from an independent third party, like a confirmation letter sent directly from the company's bank, is always going to be more reliable than an internal spreadsheet that, could have been easily changed.
Okay, so now we know what makes for good evidence. But how do auditors actually get their hands on it? Well, this is where the real detective work kicks in.
See, the process of getting evidence isn't passive. Auditors don't just sit back and wait for documents. They have a whole toolkit of procedures designed to actively go out and gather these clues and put the company's claims to the test.
This involves a whole range of techniques. We're talking physically going and inspecting inventory to make sure it exists, or standing there and observing a process to see if the controls are actually working. They'll ask for confirmations from banks to verify cash balances, and even redo the company's math themselves to look for errors. Each tool is picked for a specific reason, to target a specific risk.
All right, so after all the evidence has been gathered, after it's been checked for sufficiency and appropriateness, the final phase begins. It's time to assemble all the pieces and build the case.
This body of evidence isn't just a collection of random facts. It's a living, breathing diagnostic tool.
If the evidence is strong, the auditor might think the risk is lower and do less testing. But if the evidence is weak or contradictory, oh, that's a huge red flag, and it forces the auditor to dig even deeper.
And at the end of the day, all of this painstaking work, all this detective work, leads to one single, incredibly important thing: the auditor's final opinion on whether the financial statements are a true and fair reflection of the company's health.
So there you have it. We've seen how this one core concept of evidence is filtered through the lenses of quantity and quality, how it's gathered using specific procedures, and how it's all synthesized into a final, defensible conclusion. Every step logically builds on the one before it.
But let me leave you with this one last thought. While the playbook and the rules give a clear structure, an auditor constantly has to use their professional judgment to decide what's enough, what's relevant, and what's reliable. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Where does the science of auditing end, and where does the art of it all begin?